Good afternoon, this is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss what is a Quiet Disclosure FBAR and how do you avoid making one. By way of brief background, offshore voluntary disclosure is a general phrase. It's used to discuss the legal method for getting into compliance with the IRS for prior year unreported offshore, foreign, overseas, abroad, international accounts, assets, investments, and income. The IRS likes to use those terms interchangeably, foreign, international, offshore. But when it comes to the programs, they tend to stick with the term offshore, streamlined offshore procedures, streamlined domestic offshore procedures, offshore voluntary disclosure, etc., etc. So that's the term we're going to be using most of the time. It doesn't mean the money is in any sort of illegal tax haven, it just means it's overseas. So what happens when a taxpayer doesn't want to go the traditional offshore voluntary disclosure route? Sometimes they get stuck in a quiet disclosure. Quiet disclosure is illegal. What happens is generally this. Taxpayer, either they hired a new CPA, they're filing their taxes for the first time, they received a FATCA letter from their bank, they start doing some research, they jump in one rabbit hole after the next, and they land on some fear-mongering sites and scaremongering sites, and these websites make it sound that just going back and filing FBARs, even legally, is going to automatically result in significant fines and penalties. You'll see terms like 50% maximum value or 100,000, whatever is higher, criminal violations, $250,000, $500,000 fines. It doesn't generally work that way, okay? But for the person who does the quiet disclosure route, they will either mass file several prior year FBARs or they will start filing forward. Neither one of these is an approved method. Now, even though you'll see tons of ridiculous scaremongering and fearmongering websites online, when it comes to quiet disclosures, taxpayers have to be careful. The IRS has made it known that if they catch somebody in a quiet disclosure for their FBAR, it can be bad. Since the FBAR penalties can be pretty bad, especially if they're willful, the IRS has made it known that they will essentially pounce on the taxpayer that they find made one of these intentionally illegal disclosures. If someone made a quiet disclosure by accident, that's normally easily fixable. Even an intentional quiet disclosure is fixable. But if the taxpayer gets caught before they have a chance to fix it, they're facing significant fines and penalties, possible IRS special investigation, which could lead to a referral for criminal indictment. Again, a chance of criminal violation is rare, but if you make an intentional FBAR quiet disclosure, you're increasing the odds significantly. It's important to note that not all offshore voluntary disclosure programs have penalties. The OVDP, which has since been discontinued, even though the traditional voluntary disclosure program was expanded, can have some significant penalties. Those programs are typically for individuals and others who are willful. But there's the streamlined domestic offshore procedures and the streamlined foreign offshore procedures. Streamlined domestic carries a 5% penalty, Title 26 miscellaneous offshore penalty, in lieu of all those horrible penalties you've read about online. The streamlined foreign, otherwise known as expat amnesty, because it refers to foreign residents, that has a complete penalty waiver. So many times, and we've submitted close to 1,000 streamlined submissions in the last 5 to 6 years, but when it comes to the streamlined foreign, taxpayer could have significant amount of money overseas in different accounts and investments and assets, and the penalty is waived. Likewise, they may qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion. In addition, they may have foreign tax credits, especially if they're in a high tax jurisdiction. And at the end of the day, they will have no penalty. So there's no penalty and there's no tax liability. Alternative to those, there's other programs, the Delinquent International Information Submission Return Procedures, DIIRSP, Delinquent FBAR Submission Procedures, and of course, reasonable cause. That's a brief introduction as to why you should not be doing a quiet disclosure FBAR. My name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. If you want more resources, we have lots of information available on our main website, goldinglawyers.com. We also have a sister website, IRSstreamlineprocedures.com, for information relating specifically to the streamlined procedures. Enjoy your weekend.